absolutely dominating the front pages, dominating the news after it's released. It follows the horrific case, of course, of the abduction, rape and murder of Sarah Everard by Wayne Couzens. And while Louise Casey was writing this report, we had the conviction of a serial rapist, David Carrick, as well, and numerous other cases coming to the fore about what is going on in the Met Police. This is a report specifically into Britain's biggest police force in the London area. However, of course, is there any reason to believe it's any different in any other police force where you live? I'd like to get your response to this report and what you have to say about it. Just your experiences of the police, whether you have been a police officer yourself, whether you are a serving police officer right now, whether you have had experience of this institutional sexism, racism, homophobia. Maybe your experiences have all been good. You want to defend rank and file police officers. Is it all about the top leadership, the management? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do get in touch. Tweet me at TalkTV, and you can text the word talk to 87222. And of course, if you want to be anonymous, send it by text. We can just read out your name, or we can use a different name if you fear being identified. But we'd love to get your thoughts on air. Candice Holdsworth is a writer and commentator who's joining me this morning, and we'll get her thoughts in just a couple of moments. First up, though, let's talk to Peter Bleksley. He's here with us in the studio. He's a former Metropolitan Police detective. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Before I get your comments, I just want to play a couple of clips of what Baroness Casey has had to say about her own report. First of all, when she says quite clearly, you know, what the problems are.
Institutional racism, misogyny, sexism and homophobia. I think there again you could start tomorrow the process of changing that, if nothing else, by actually sorting out racists in their own organisation, as well as how they talk to the women and other Londoners in a much more respectful and proper way.
Well, she was also asked if she believes there are other Wayne Couzens in the Metropolitan Police today.
I do not think I can assure you, all the people watching this programme, that that is not an impossible thing.
And she also talked about public confidence, particularly in the wake, of course, the Wayne Couzens and the David Carrick crimes.
They're in denial. I think that they think by admitting that there is a problem, that somehow then that will make public confidence drop. Public confidence has dropped because they will not admit to there being a problem, and therefore they won't do anything about it. And that's the thing that needs to shift.
And she also, interestingly, says that she doesn't have full confidence in the Met Police herself, particularly as a woman living in London. Listening to all of that, Peter Bleksley, I say, you know, you worked in the Met for many years. We've spoken to you so many times about the Met and other police forces. What's your reaction to reading this report?
This is a very sad and sombre day today, and we mustn't forget Sarah Everard amongst all of this, because, of course, it was her brutal abduction, rape and murder by a Met Police monster that actually was the catalyst for this report. Baroness Casey has done a brilliant and fearless job, and the reputation of the Metropolitan Police, whilst it's never been perfect, it used to have a global and glittering reputation that meant that I could walk down the steps of an aeroplane in any country I landed in and would be welcomed, respected.
Now, what do you do for a living? I work for the Met Police. Oh, OK. You're a fine, upstanding member of society.
Yeah, by way of my work, because I did travel widely. Yeah. And wherever you went, whatever law enforcement agency you met throughout the world, you would be greeted and respected.
And that has changed. What's changed? Because we're looking on, you know, more than 20 years since the Macpherson report, which following the death of Stephen Lawrence, the murder of Stephen Lawrence, and the abject failures of the police investigation there, that we were told that the Metropolitan Police was institutionally racist. This goes further. This is about being institutionally, you know, misogynistic and sexist, homophobic and corrupt as well.
We have had many conversations, you and I, where I have repeatedly said the Metropolitan Police and other police services, the Met is an organisation that refuses to look itself in the mirror, and also that many senior Met Police officers get to a point where their jobs become about self-service and not public service. Sadly, all of that has been proved to be exactly correct by Baroness Casey, and there's more, much more. Those who blow the whistle have been seen for many years as being rocking the boat. the troublemakers. They've been moved around. They've been almost sanctioned themselves, and some of their careers have come to premature endings. Well, forgive the ship kind of anecdote terminology now, but rocking the boat is actually a good thing. These officers must be encouraged to tell the truth, because this report has hauled this ship beneath the waterline, and if they don't get enough hands to the pump, it will simply sink.
And this is the thing, isn't it? There's one of the things that Baroness Casey identified was that actually they didn't want to ever admit there was ever any issue. And again, we had again and again this idea, well, these were rotten apples. These were, this was somebody who, even the Wayne Couzens thing, oh, well, he was a police officer, but he was off duty. No, it was because he was a police officer, he was able to abduct and rape and murder Sarah Everard. And of course, David Carrick, again, wasn't caught for years, even though I think there were 9 opportunities when he was reported and nothing was done. And again, with Wayne Couzens, he had been flashing, exposing himself, and again, no proper investigation. And we see again and again, we're not seeing proper investigations into what laughably referred to as low-level crimes. Shoplifting, it's not low-level crime for the business that is losing all those goods, and other low-level, supposedly low-level crimes like burglary. Again, not low-level when someone's invaded your home and stolen your stuff. But then we're not seeing the clear-up rate of things like rape. One of the female police officers spoken to by Louise Casey in this report says that to all intents and purposes, rape has been legalised in London because the conviction rate is so low. That is incredibly damning, but also incompetence as well. And this is something I've been talking about for a long time. Rape kit samples being kept in a freezer that broke, and a freezer that they couldn't close, so the stuff. And then, of course, all that evidence is lost, so therefore they can no longer make the prosecution. I've had a case where I just had a video of something I'd taken on my phone of these guys attacking someone in their car. The police lost the video on the CD 3 times. I sent it to them, by email. They lost it by email. How do you lose it by email? Just a complete abject level of incompetence. Now, can we blame individual officers for that, or does it all come down fundamentally to management, to leadership, to Sir Mark Rowley right now, the Met Police Commissioner, the most senior police officer in the land, Dame Cressida Dick previously?
Every officer in the Met is going to have to bear responsibility for this report, and many might not want to hear that because they'll say, well, I'm a good officer. OK, so you are, but have you always confronted wrongdoing?
Oh, but now that's easy to say, isn't it? But we know that the officers who do confront wrongdoing, who say, look, I thought, that stop and search was wrong, or your treatment of another officer, I mean, that they will then be sent to Coventry. No one will work with them. They are treated appallingly by their colleagues, and that canteen culture basically forces good people out.
And that has to change. The
How
whistleblowers,
do you change that?
The whistleblowers have to be welcomed and seen as a good thing. And Metropolitan Police officers are going to have to be better cops and braver human beings than I was, because in my time on the front line, I did not confront that wrongdoing. Albeit it was a long time ago, I make no excuses.
And you're a strong character. You're very sort of, you've got a very sort of, I think, there's a backbone of steel in you. Why didn't you?
Because I wanted to be accepted. I wanted to be part of the team. I wanted to go to the Christmas do. I wanted to go for the drinks
Be one
after
of the
work.
lads.
Just like so many officers will be wanting to do today. But that kind of culture, those times, I'm not talking about the socialising, but that culture of not confronting on each and every occasion has to be consigned to the dustbin of policing history.
Let's go through some of the specifics that were identified by Dame Louise Casey. She talked about, again, all the fridges used for rape kits were in bad shape, packed and ruining evidence. And in the 22 heat wave, one freezer broke down, all the evidence was lost. And she talked about, a one male colleague unable to understand why a case was a violent rape. I mean, I can't even go into read some of the detail of that.
My word,
I can't read that out. Apologies. And one quipped after dealing with an historical rape allegation. This is a police officer. Well, if you told me 10 years ago I'd get to talk about sex all day, I'd never have believed it. Police officers being told to delete their WhatsApp messages during meetings after the Not In My Met internal campaign was encouraging officers to speak out about discrimination, race and homophobic and sex discrimination. Multiple examples of bullying of young female colleagues. One senior male officer telling a more junior woman, "I will break you." He sent her alone to harrowing scenes like car crashes or where someone had fallen from a tall building. One black female officer said that male colleagues were sex obsessed. They would openly rate and grade female colleagues and members of the public on their appearance. Young female officers were traded like cattle within police stations, moved on to different units depending on which male officers found them attractive. There were initiation rituals, food eating challenges, like you'd had to eat a cheesecake until you'd vomit. A male officer sexually assaulted in the showers as part of his initiation. People laughing and joking about this. A woman who had a relationship with a more senior officer, and when they broke up, she was actually put through a misconduct system. Another officer, when their relationship broke up and she'd made claims about abuse by him, she was then made to work on the same unit as him. I mean, the list goes on. And on.
Bacon put into the boots of a Muslim police officer, a police member of staff who was so stupid that they didn't realise that by putting their lunchbox into a fridge designed for the retention of exhibits, that then contaminated all of those exhibits. I mean, as a former practical frontline detective, to hear stories like that is just beyond my comprehension. Training, clearly, just...
Vetting, training,
supervision,
non-stop vetting.
Management, lack of experience, the list and the litany goes on.
Is anyone in top management currently fit to do the job?
We shall see. Sir Mark Rowley is making his claims and he has a relatively new deputy in Dame Lynn Owens, but this won't be solved by top-down diktat alone. There has to be a groundswell, a willingness, an acceptance to make it right that comes from the front line, because the overwhelming amount of police officers in the Met are constables and sergeants by a huge, enormous percentage, and it will be those officers that will have to want and instigate and see this change through.
Indeed. Well, let me bring in Candice Holdsworth. I mean, you know, you're a woman, you live in London like me. I mean, again, I don't think this will just be the Met Police. I think it'd be really bizarre if this was just one police force and not an ongoing issue around the country. What do you make of this? Do you feel safe? Would you feel safe, like, getting into a police officer's car now?
No, I mean, after what happened to Sarah Everard, I think that shattered mine and many other women's trust in the police. And then later, the handling of the memorial, which was just so heavy-handed and over the top. Most women I know say that if a police officer approached them on their own, they would not get in the car. They would not.
It's really quite damning, isn't it? That is quite a statement.
But that's what happens when something so egregious happens. It destroys people's trust.
And the fact that there were so many, you know, with David Carrick and Wayne Couzens, so many opportunities to stop them, and they chose that. That is the number one thing.
That's the thing.
You know, I mean, again, when someone's nickname is the rapist, there's a bit of a clue. What do you think needs to change, and what do you think will change?
Well, based on what Peter was saying, if there is a culture of rejecting criticism and just tending to close ranks, you need a total transformation of that. You have to welcome criticism. It's painful, but you have to. It's the only way you can improve.
We don't want sort of self-flagellation and just sort of, oh, woe is me, because we need them to do the job.
Indeed we do, absolutely. They have warrant cards in their pockets or wheresoever they carry them. They are police officers. They have to be held to a higher standard of behaviour than us, who is Joe Public. Now, the time for a complete revolution is now. Not tomorrow, not the day after, it is now. But I do feel for those that I'm encouraging to do the right thing and whistleblow, because the Crime Stoppers line that was set up as part of the new anti-corruption command only at the end of November is, quite frankly, lacking. If you ring up, and I know this from victims that have contacted me, the staff are inexperienced, they're not going to, and if you report via the online portal, you'll get a reply within 6 days. Imagine the damage a corrupt cop can do in 6 days.